as Savon would say. Bam. Bam, we're live. By we, it is I. Coach T, Coach Tristan. We my compadres, my compatriots are both running a little bit late, it seems. Connor told me he was going to be a little bit late. Mr. Mahmood, however, is MIA. We'll see where Mahmood's at. Mahmood, where are you? Anyways, we're going to be talking about getting strong today because this is something that gets talked about a lot in a pretty non-tactical manner for athletes. Coaches like to talk about getting strong. I think there's a lot of different ways to get strong. We wanted to come on here and give some of our thoughts and perspectives and experiences for getting strong. I wonder if this link changed now that I'm live. Let's see here. I'm just going to resend them this link. Connor. Second link in case first doesn't work. We have a live viewer. Oh, there's Mahmood.
Hello.
There you are.
Sorry.
Well, you're on the phone too. You just got done.
Yeah, they just got done.
Well, what's the verdict?
Kirk beat her by a whole second.
Dang! Really?
Yeah, he got 12:97. She got 13:96.
That's fast.
That's the fastest I've ever seen him move, but he did good.
So, for anybody who watches this or our one listener or watcher at the moment, one of our coaches at Greater Heights, and he's an athlete at Mahmood's, and another athlete at Greater Heights got into a little bit of a challenge for a 100-meter sprint. And I would say that was an upset, to be honest.
Yeah, that was, for the majority, it was definitely not what everybody expected. But again, it was a really good race.
I mean, a full second. So he was like 2.5 steps ahead of her.
Yeah, probably more.
Maybe 3, yeah.
Yeah, he was like 10 to 15 feet ahead of her.
Did she make up ground, or did he pull away from the start?
At some point during the race, she just screamed no, so he just pulled away.
So she shut it down. She said no, she started slowing down, 100%.
Yeah, she couldn't keep up with him.
She said no. That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
I have it on video, on pictures. It was raining. It is raining, actually. It's very slippery.
I don't know why they did that.
I begged them not to do it, but they were stubborn.
That is not
Happy to report there were no injuries.
What's up, team?
Oh my god, he's so excited.
I'm back. What's up, guys?
Guess what? He can't lose this episode. It's live. He can't lose it.
That's true. We've solved that problem, Connor. I'll never lose another episode with you on it because they're just live now.
Well, that's honestly probably the best mediator because you suck.
I mean, I think that is best for all parties involved.
Mahmood, what's up, dude? It's been forever.
How are you, sir? Yeah. Since you moved to College Station, I haven't seen you.
I got a different look. I got the beard now.
I know.
For a little bit, I saw a little bit of something up here. I'm not sure what it was.
There's some.
He's got a little bit up there.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
This is as big as it grows.
That's as big as it grows?
Yeah, I lost it. It's gone.
As much as he allows it to grow.
It was the sun, man. It was the sun. We'll blame it on the sun.
You know what? Maybe I lost some hair to get faster. Who knows?
Aerodynamics. Look it up.
That's exactly it.
It's called science, nerds. Look it up.
Mahmood, I'm obviously biased because I've never seen you with much hair, but
I did have a thick head of hair.
You look good with the shaved head.
Mahmood,
to me, To me, that is what you should do.
Mahmoud, do you have a picture of you with a full head of hair, like when you were
I
younger?
do. I don't know if I can pull it up here.
What about laying around in
Fine.
your apartment or something?
He's not at his
Oh,
apartment.
sorry.
He's at the gym.
I
Oh
went
God,
away.
what did you do?
Yeah.
Don't do
Nope.
that.
Yeah, I will stay here.
I'm at the gym.
We'll
Bear with
we'll
me.
put a picture of Mahmood somewhere. Blame
Yeah,
it.
we'll
Blame
can
it
post it on the stories.
Exactly, Jeff. Blame it on the rain. I'm excited to see the video footage of that race. But anyways, Connor, Kirk and Aubrey Bagley did a 100-meter race against each other today at Greater Heights.
Oh, very good.
And Kirk won, apparently.
Kirk won.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know
Which
much about either person, so that's awesome. Well,
I mean, Aubrey played collegiate soccer.
yeah.
And I know Kirk's super powerful, but I just wasn't confident on like foot speed cycling.
Speaking of that, Tristan, how's your speed training going?
Dude, it's great. I love it.
Have we
I
gotten
love
full
it.
yet?
So I did a test in. So Trevor, actually, after I recorded a podcast with him last week, he convinced me that I should do, because I wasn't gonna run 100 until like September, because I did not want to blow my hamstring off.
Dude, don't be. The only way you blow it out is to worry about it.
So he was like, you just need to run one, even if it's like not max effort. So I ran one at the track here. Yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. So I did two kind of, I would say 9 out of 10 effort hundreds. Like, I didn't try to get faster.
Why go 9? You go 10 out of 10. It's one step up.
But I was really happy with it. I recorded on my phone and then got the time from that as best as I could because I didn't have anybody else there. So my time from my phone, with obviously a little bit of error to see exactly when I started, because I was 100 meters away. But I have it at 13.78.
That's really good.
In Nike Metcons from a standing start. So, oh yeah. That's golden. That's good. That is going to be your next run club picture for sure. For sure. So yeah, 13.78. I was pretty happy with that. So that's a good starting point. My goal, I've told Mahmoud this, and after running that, I think it's super doable. 9-ish months, I want to go 11.5 in spikes.
I like that.
And that's like actually fast.
When you retest this, I want to be there. I want to run against you. Trevor,
dude, in a year, Connor, in 9 months with spikes, I will smoke you. I will smoke you.
Let's snippet that right there.
I will snippet that.
Yep.
I will smoke you. But anyways, it's honestly, the training for it's just a lot of fun. I did the class workout Tuesday. I did like an upper body style Metcon Wednesday. I'm still doing CrossFit, but the majority of my training outside that. Thanks, Jeff. Watch this. Hold on. Timestamp for the clip. I love it.
That's right. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
But then all my other training is like plyometrics, sprint stuff. Like I'm still squatting and lunging, but it's a lot of fun. Just I'm so bad at it. So it's fun to get better.
Because you're such a lanky guy and you look like you're built.
Let's not call him lanky.
He's
tall.
A tree.
Tall.
Tree.
I would not say I'm overly lanky, but I'm like borderline lanky. I'm tall for sure.
You're a skinny tree.
You're a good looking fella.
Thank you. So I've ran, like I did the 400 in high school and I did the 4x4 and the 300 meter hurdles, but I've never sprinted. Like I've never trained to be fast in a very short time domain.
Yeah.
So Trey, Kevin, Giraffe Lanky,
baby. He's gonna start swinging his neck around.
That's true. That is the hardest part when I sprint, is not let my head go crazy. We miss you too, Trey. You should come back because it's better in Texas.
Trey, nice to see you.
Okay. You don't have to make me blush. I'm respectably strong at best.
Unless it's a 70-pound dumbbell.
Unless it's a 70-pound dumbbell. That is my CrossFit kryptonite, and I have no shame in admitting that.
It doesn't even have to be a certain movement. It's just the dumbbell itself.
No, just that dumbbell. Honestly, I'm probably better against people with a 90 with something. to be honest, because the workout will just be different.
I don't know, Tristan. I don't know.
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah,
Sit
I
down,
would
double
not go
up,
as
fuck
far
off.
as that.
Let's
Like,
not
I
put-
believe in your 11.5 more than the dumbbell with the 90.
Hey, that's fine with me. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's hard. It's hard because I told Mahmood this, and then we'll get into the strength stuff. I would rather only run a 12, but look like I'm doing it correctly. So like
No.
that's the hard, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I don't care
yeah.
how it gets done. It just needs to get done. Nah,
No, like I want it to look like I know what I'm doing.
I want my
This
move
is
to-
this is a coach's code for copping out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. I want the ugliest face possible. I don't care how it gets done.
No. I mean, it's gonna be ugly face, but like I want my sprint mechanics to be sound, right? I want to come off the line and the blocks looking like I'm not an idiot.
Run like the wind, Tristan. The wind got it right. Just follow it.
That's the plan. Don't want to look like exactly. I don't want to look like a chicken having a seizure. Exactly.
Well,
I haven't seen a chicken run before. If you're looking like a chicken at all, then we have a problem.
Dude, if I look like a chicken running, I don't know if I'd be on this endeavor.
It'd be a lanky chicken.
Yeah, exactly.
just getting that little extra push with that right there.
Anyways, I got a tripod. I ordered a tripod, so I'm gonna start documenting a little bit more of my sprint work so everybody can laugh.
Oh,
at me.
here we go. We got a documentary coming up.
No, not a
Netflix,
documentary.
here we go.
Just Instagram stories. Instagram stories.
He'll just go like voiceover, like
You compile all the clips of everybody talking crap on you right before
And then just-
save them.
that 9-month period,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, and
Yeah.
then just roll the clip.
Dude,
Just roll the
I
clip.
should.
Yeah.
Jeff, we need another timestamp. Help me out here. This is live. It's harder to get times. We're 12 minutes in. All right. All right. So we are going to talk about getting strong, building elite strength in CrossFit, and how to get your weights right for Metcons. Because that's usually the second part of that conversation with somebody, right? We're all coaches. It's, hey, I need to get stronger. And then there's this load or this weight in the workout, and they're like, I don't know, like it's kind of heavy, but I can do it. And they just get kind of all confuzzled on what they should do, what the intent of the workout should be. So we'll kind of get to that second. The way I thought we'd do this is kind of just go back and forth on what are some of y'all's favorite strength progressions or principles that you use with your athletes, because we all program a little bit differently. Obviously I coach Connor, so he sees kind of both ends of that, but I know he programs differently for his athletes. So Mahmood, we'll start with you. What are a couple, and let's say you can take this anywhere you want: squat strength, Olympic strength, pressing strength, whatever side tangent you want to go on. Just what are like a couple of your like always in the back pocket, like this is my jam to get somebody stronger at this thing?
I believe in unilateral strength very much, especially in CrossFit. So I'm big on accessories and trying to make sure that there aren't any deficits. And then once we get that better and we feel like we're stable, we're strong, we're able to generate power through both sides equally, then we'll probably start getting through some linear progressions. I do like going between high volume repetitions and getting to an RP of an 8.5 to 9, and then next cycle would be something, okay, we're going to start a little bit at a lower rep range, we're going to try and push the percentages a little higher. I honestly think also like there's no one right way to get stronger, as long as you're targeting different modalities of strength as you go through the cycles, because at some point your body will hit some limitation at some point. So like, let's say you keep working on sets of 8 to 10 for 6 weeks. At this point you need to kind of shift a little bit to kind of modify that adaptation curve, rather than like, okay, we're just going to do that for 6 months and then like you plateau and you stay there. So I like to shift it. And that also keeps the athletes from being, I mean, for the lack of a better term, bored, or just like, yeah, like checking off boxes instead of intentionally training.
You said something in there. Are you a big fan of using RPE for lifting?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am. I believe in it more than percentages. Like if somebody's like, hey, today I was below percentage, but my lifts felt better than last week, that's actually a win, right? Like I don't want to feel like crap or form goes out and then I'm like my RPE is 10. That's never the plan. You
Right.
never want to go to a RPE 10 at a 70%. Right.
That is the difference between the two of us. I use RPE and I've started to use a little bit more, but generally I'm a simp for percentages. Like I love a good percentage based progression. Obviously, like I don't go crazy with it, but
I will say I use both equally for different people. Some people who are just struggling to stay with percentages, I'll like, hey, we'll go RPE or reps in reserve. Some people who struggle to understand that concept, then we'll just keep it simple and go percentage.
so that's kind of my beef with the RPE crew. And this would not apply to you because you're actually smart and know what you're doing with programming. I think people who don't understand load to the body and fatigue, they use RPE as a cop out.
Fair.
Because they don't know how to appropriately prescribe X amount of reps at X percentage and then understand what they're asking the organism to do.
Yep.
So
I agree. And Mahmoud, I liked what you really said. And I've been a big fan of this the more I've dived into CrossFit classes rather than personal training or remote training. I really like starting off people with unilateral exercises. I think it's something that is overlooked a lot. I noticed that we did a Metcon here this past week with some back rack walking lunges. We had to scale it down to step forward lunges. But with that, there was a lot of feedback of like, man, my left leg or my right leg is significantly weaker or more unstable than the other. And I've noticed that as I've gotten into CrossFit classes more and more. And I think it's something that we sometimes overlook because somebody approaches you with goals and stuff and you're like, okay, well, he wants to work on front squat, deadlift, back squat, so on and so forth. But there's no shortcut to overcoming that deficiency on one side or the other. And it needs to be addressed. And if it's not addressed, that's something that could lead into injuries or something like that further into the future. I've gotten on board. It was just something that was overlooked for me a little bit. And it's not by mistake or it's not by me thinking that one thing is better than the other. It's just something that I really didn't address because of all the athletes that really, approached me with, hey, let's get stronger in back squat, front squat, so on and so forth. And it's like, okay, well, let's do a couple little tests really quick, right? Let's see your single leg strength. Let's see if you can get down into lunge, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really have started addressing the unilateral stuff and accessory work as well. That's something that I've been working on one of my athletes, Chris Gaines, as well. We do a lot of unilateral work, especially him being in tactical games where it is a lot of unilateral stuff.
Odd object too.
Yeah, odd object, stuff like that. That's the last thing that you want to pop up is some type of deficiency, and then worst case scenario, injury happened, right?
Trey brings up a good point here with occasionally using RP, like with his knees, RP can help with his percentages. And I think that's a strength of, Connor, like.
That's me, Trey. That's me. I'm actually
going through some of the same.
Right now. I'm dealing with it right now. And that's what I was going to kind of go back to. It's like, the RPE can be used as a crutch a little bit. However, when things like this arise, it's like, hey, okay, we might not want to go percentages right now. Mm-hmm. We might want to deal with, hey, what feels 80% to you? What feels good? What feels, heavy but moderate, right? Not a 1 rep max, but a RPE 8, maybe 8.5, stuff like that. So the RPE stuff is something that I've jumped on the board with, and me and Tristan have been working on that, just athlete to coach type relationship there. But the RPE thing is something that I've done as well. Phenomenal stuff. If used correctly.
Yeah. I think there's a time and a place
Yeah.
for RPE, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I have liked using RPE a little bit more when I'm having people work up to like a weekly heavy, and then letting them try to beat that the next week or some things like that. All right, Connor. So you kind of go ahead, Mahmood.
I was gonna say, when I program for a broad group that has different like capabilities and actually understanding of the fatigue level, I like the R reps and reserves, RIR, better.
Yeah.
Especially if it's like build up to a heavy 5, I need them to like, okay, you should be able to do 2 more reps, but you choose not to.
Yeah. I think
Right.
RIR is easier for lesser experienced people to quantify in their head, because if you're going to give somebody RPE and they have never done something at RPE 10, then it's kind of going to have a room for
Right.
error, right? Got to go hit this complex. Oh, he's doing Metcon Rush. Sick, dude. Go crush.
Good luck, Trey.
Good luck.
Good luck, brother.
That's right.
Love that.
Okay, so Connor, you like some unilateral work, you like some RPE. What's kind of your bread and butter? What's your, not bread and butter, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've run a couple different ones. Linear, of course, I think is a standard use when dealing with strength. I really like the 5-3-1 method. Tristan, this is something that you presented to me a long time ago. It was I think his name's Jim Windler. This is something that's been useful for me because it allows you guys to go into 4-week blocks. And essentially, yeah, there you go. The holy grail right there. Useful for anybody who has a 1 rep max already established, right? If it's a 4-week block, you go 3 sets of 5 on week 1 at 65, 75, and 85% of your training max. And then the second week is 3x3s. The third week is the 5-3-1, which is where the term comes from. And then fourth week is a deload. And then the fifth week, hey, let's build up to a heavy for the day. Let's see if we can get a little PR, right? I've run this, going back to Chris Gaines, I've been running this with him for about 1.5 years now. He's PR'd probably once every 3 or 4 months. And then if we're feeling really good, he's hit a PR twice in a 4-week block. You know, stuff like that. So I think it's a super safe and effective. I don't think long-term applies to that so much as far as what we're dealing with, right? Maybe clean squats, deadlifts, that type of stuff. And when it comes to some other things, I really like the Texas method. The Texas method, the 5x5, you know, it works on high volume and moderate intensity. Tristan, we started working on this when we found out I'm not good at benching in Metcons. So that being said, like that type of stuff is my 2 go-tos outside of the linear. And I'm a huge fan of the conjugate stuff as well. Conjugate's a big, broad conversation that can take probably 2 hours to get through. But the 5-3-1 method and the Texas method outside of the linear stuff is my go-tos. I really like the progressions on that as well. And then I can even I've done this before. I've gone into a 5x5, accumulating some volume, get the person moving under some load over a high volume of reps. And then the next progression that we run might be a linear progression, right? To a 1 rep max or something like that. I really enjoy trying to get people volume rather than intensity first, and then volume.
Right.
You can kind of play with it a little bit.
Well, and that goes back to just like classic, you know, phasic structure of training, right? Like hypertrophy phase or a volume phase, and then more traditional strength, and then peaking later on. So whether you bring up a good point though, whether you're doing your volume as 3x10, 5x5, those can vary, but you're still kind of potentiating the next cycle when you get into heavier intensities and things like that.
Yeah. I've enjoyed those 2 a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we ran you on that conjugate adapted system for like a year.
A long time. It did me a lot of benefit as well.
I love, and I mean that, like you said, that is not a rabbit hole we have the time to get into today.
No.
But like that conjugate system, which I will absolutely not tell anybody how I do that. I don't give a fuck. It is so good when you're doing a lot of CrossFit volume, though.
Yes.
It is chef's kiss.
Yes.
Anyways, I think so. I have a lot of different ways I do stuff. I think for me, one of the things I've enjoyed and seen a lot of benefit with athletes, particularly in the Olympic lifting, is physically moving through, which actually, if you're following our blog program, Compete, you're doing this right now, and Train as well. Physically moving through Olympic lifting progressions in terms of specificity to the 1RM. And this is like a really big thing in the Olympic lifting world, but somehow just a lot of CrossFitters don't do it. So you can go triples on the snatch, then doubles on the snatch, and then a triples, doubles, singles block. Or you can go block, hang, or, from the blocks, and then you can go to the low hang, and then you can go to the floor. So it's just picking a variation or a rep scheme or both, a rep range, and then moving that down through the cycle as you get closer to peaking for the actual 1RM snatch, 1RM clean and jerk, et cetera, et cetera. And that works super well in those early phases because, especially if you use things like the blocks or a positional technical complex, because you can push raw strength, squat, deadlift, bench press, push press, strict press a lot more, because the load they're lifting in the Oli lifts is so much less, because you are limiting what they can do in some way, whether it's from the complex, from the blocks, percentage prescription, whatever, and you're refining those lifts. And then by the time you get to heavy double, heavy single, they're stronger, they're moving better, and then they end up usually just hitting a PR, sometimes a really, really big PR naturally. Yep. And that was something that I did not always do with the Olympic lifts. Like, it took me a long time, and listening to other coaches and podcasts outside of the CrossFit space to like click to that. And it was like, we physically progress almost every other kind of strength in some fashion. Why would you not do it with the Olympic lifts? And I at the time just didn't understand the ways you could do it, basically.
I like, for the Olympic lifts, I've noticed over the course of time, and you guys can kind of piggyback off of this too. It's taking the whole lift out of the equation and focusing, Tristan, you alluded to this without saying it explicitly, but focusing on, like, maybe it's the top half. So from the knee up, right? Mm-hmm. From the blocks, or whether it's with a barbell with no blocks. But at the end of the day, especially dealing with a lot of people, and we see this, I've noticed just from conversation, like high school and college athletes, they do the power clean, but the snatch especially is something that's not always useful in their sport. And it's not because it's the strength conditioning coach is a bad coach. It's just saying that, hey, it might not be beneficial for their sport. But when they step foot into CrossFit, right, they know how to lift, but they don't know how to do a snatch, right? So, I've noticed that most of the errors come from the floor. So I like to teach it as a top-down method. We're going to start in the high hang, right? We're just going to get the motion of the barbell, start off super light, right? And that's a good way to keep it light. That way the loading is safe. Mm-hmm. And then you go down a little bit further to the knee, the hang position, right? And then maybe it's the low hang, and then maybe it's from the floor. That way we can isolate and build specific positional strengths that are not necessarily addressed all the time, rather than just jumping into, hey, we're going to go a 3x2x1 snatch block. It's just something that I've enjoyed doing too. I think it keeps the athlete safer, and it allows them to think in segments rather than the whole lift, right? Okay, hips and shoulders rising at the same time from the floor in a snatch. Okay, well, if I take that from the hang, all I really got to do is worry about the hang position, and then just, hey, what's the fundamental method of getting this barbell over my head? Right. I like the way it simplifies things for people, and running complexes is something that is useful too in that as well.
I think one thing that I wish more CrossFitters, CrossFit athletes understood with the Olympic lifts is it is an expression of strength and force production. You do not train, like I see this a lot on social media, and I usually have to close my Instagram and open it again so it goes away because I'll get mad. You do not train the Olympic lifts like you train the back squat.
Correct.
Like, yes, you could say 5x5 snatch grip deadlift in some situations, but that is more than likely not the optimal way to improve your snatch, right? One, you're moving the bar too damn slow. Two, if you're doing 5x5 snatch grip deadlifts at 100% of your snatch, you're probably not in the correct posture positions to what you would actually do to try to snatch that, right? By the third rep, your shoulders are forward, whatever. So it's like, if people could just understand that posture, position, and technique is how you improve the Olympic lifts. And obviously rate of force development or rate of force production, but you don't need to train it like a squat, bench, deadlift. Especially because in CrossFit, half the time you're going to do another 30 to 100 reps in a conditioning piece.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to get in tons of extra volume in that movement pattern. And that's just something that I keep seeing, and I just wish people would stop doing that because it drives me nuts.
Yeah, and I think the intention behind it, and I say
I get it.
Yes,
I get it.
I get it. But I think the intention behind it is not always conveyed over social media correctly.
Fuck, I did it. Like not only do I get it, I did it. And now looking back at my, athlete journey, it's like, that was not what I needed to be doing. I needed to be doing high hang squat snatch until I died because my pull under the bar was garbage.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, and this is the problem with social media, and you can go X amount of topics. It's that somebody makes a post and it's like, hey, this is what you should be doing to get your 1 rep max snatch up.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay. Some people may look at that and be like, oh, that's really good. Let me try it. And then go and build a small program if you're smart, right? Stay organized. But I do think social media has played a huge role in that. What I'm going to be doing is not what Rich Froning should be doing. And it's not
what I was going to say.
Doing, and it's not what Noah Olson should be doing. It's totally separate. And I think people lose sight of that, especially on social media, because that person can snatch a big number and it's like, oh, this is how he does it. I'm going to do it that way. Right. And it's like, hold tight. Right. I think, that's where good coaching comes into play.
I mean, I got no shame in my game. If you look back at Jacob's snatch work for the last 4 years, you'd be like, wow, this is really simple. Like, yeah. Because lucky him and lucky me, he's just freaking good at snatching. Like, he gets it. He moves well. The movement, he understands. His body's super good at executing it. He's got great mobility, and he's just great at snatching. It's like, I don't try to reinvent the wheel with his snatch work. I don't need to. But there's somebody like you, Connor. We've put 35 pounds on your snatch.
Yeah.
In 2.5 years or something like that. And it's like, we've done all kinds of shit. Like power snatch, waves, hang, complex, low hang, blocks. Like, we pulled out all the different tricks in the bag because like that was something you needed to develop.
Right.
Right. So what people see Jacob do on a snatch is not necessarily what they're going to need to do to be able to snatch as much as Jacob.
Correct.
No, and that is a big mistake.
That's where the main issue with social media comes in for me. I'll do the same thing, Tristan. I'll just scroll through it, be like, oh God,
yeah.
Like, here we go. I just don't think that everything applies to everybody, right?
Yeah.
That's given that everything is already right to begin with.
Right.
Like, there are some things that are like, just a good example. There's those nicely made figures with like a big title, and it said like, okay, what is energy drinks show that they inhibit muscle growth.
Mm-hmm.
And like the guy was legit. Like, he put paragraphs and like a PM ID, and I was like, oh, that looks legit. I might as well just start looking into it. I copied the PM ID, I put it in the Google Scholar. The study does not talk about energy drinks. It measures dosage of caffeine versus muscle contractility, and it is a positive outcome.
Oh,
So the guy made up the whole thing, and
Yeah.
people are just sharing it in mass.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they
And
don't.
like,
People
it-
don't. Yeah,
Right, and like it's scary, right? Like, because who doesn't drink energy drinks in the fitness world?
I mean,
Yeah.
Connor and I do. That's for sure.
Brother, I saw that link. Now, Mahmood, I didn't do any research. I just chose not to give a shit. But I just keep drinking. But no, energy. Look, man, schooling and everything put you through secondary sources, tertiary sources, and everything. You got to do the research. And I encourage anybody, if whatever it is, if you see an article, if it's peer reviewed, not peer reviewed, if you don't know what that is, I'm not going into it. But do your own research. The answer,
Yeah, and actually look, like it's usually in the article too. They will say this study is limited because of so and so.
Well, they
And
have
if that
to.
limitation, right, they have to, they're obligated. So like if that limitation does not apply to you, then it's not about you. Like you don't have to stick with it. And
Right.
honestly, like I'm a scientist by nature, and I published paper, and like you try to make your point correct. You
Right.
try to publish what you want to say. That being said, is there a way around it? Yes, and that's where the limitations come in. So maybe it was a sample of 10 people. That's not, you can't generalize that, right? There's no
Yeah.
way. Or it was
For-
done once, right? Like that's still not
For
generalizable.
everybody who doesn't know and they didn't watch our previous podcast, I'm actually the least educated person on the show right now.
Oh God.
Dr. Mahmood and double major Connor over there.
yeah,
Making me look
it'll
like
be
an
all
idiot.
right. But stuff like that does annoy me on social media, and it has since social media has existed. It's people post what they want to post, and that's okay. You know,
But you just got to do your own research.
do your own research. I encourage everybody to do their own research. That article, for example, they could have another article, a conflicting article that says caffeine has no effect on muscle contractility.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Right?
Right.
It's like it's
Yeah.
it just do your own research. The
Research
answer-
is so hard to tease out. Like,
there,
I mean,
it
half
is.
the studies that we pull for like exercise science, exercise selection, muscle growth, this, that, and the other. It's like, I mean, I'll get them or I'll see them and I'll read not the abstract. Well, yeah, it'd be the abstract or the intro, and it's like 8 weeks on untrained men, and I'm like, useless to me.
Yes.
Like I literally read that far, and I'm like, okay, don't care, because like I'm not dealing with untrained people. I'm dealing with people who have been training for 10 to 15 years half the time. It's like this is a useless study for me half the time.
Yes.
Okay, so let's kind of get into. We gave some actionable items. I feel like some methods people can use. Ooh, fucking shit up, to get stronger. The weights and the conditioning thing, the weights in the Metcon, the weights in the interval. How do you guys like to approach that? Because I've kind of refined my thoughts on this a little bit in the last 6 months, but I want to know kind of y'all's thoughts on this a little bit.
Mahmood, you want to kick this off, bro?
Yeah.
Sure. When I put in, it depends on the focus of the workout. If I'm going to bias a workout as a strength biased workout, it requires one, it is very clearly mentioned. I need you to prioritize hitting this weight at those like breakdowns. Like I need you to break it down here and here and here. And I need you to not worry about moving too fast. At this point, it is a strength biased workout. I need you to be able to move this weight under fatigue.
Mhm.
And usually that is accompanied by somewhere in the 75 to 85% range of the lift for that person. And it is accompanied with lower volume. So it's like 5 to maybe 7 reps at a time. Right. And it also depends, like if it's a deadlift versus it's a squat clean, right? There's a big difference there.
Right.
Right. Now, if I don't want that person to prioritize weight and I want them to move fast with the barbell, that also needs to be clear, and it will be a lighter weight, and it will be like, hey, I want you to focus on rep speed. I want you to focus on bigger sets. I want you to focus on form under fatigue. This weight is meant to be light. I will, at this point, look at like 50, maybe 45%, even to 65%. At the most of that lift specifically, again, depending on the lift and the person. And it will usually be like not the most challenging movement of that workout.
Right.
Right? Like it's meant to be like adding to the fatigue, but the challenge is to stay consistent with the pace, for example, or to move faster. But it's not that the challenge is not to move the bar.
Right.
Yeah.
I should have prefaced this section with, obviously, we're one-on-one coaches. We're going to tell you what weight to use to get the stimulus that we want you to get.
But I also
this
do the
is
same in the class, right? Like I go in the
right.
class, like intention here is not to move a heavy weight. I don't care what's on the screen. I need you to be able to move that barbell fast, and I need you to be able to do sets of 8 to 10.
Right.
Right.
I want this to, and you went the right direction, just to be a little more general advice for people who go to class, do a different program, do a random program, write their own stuff. But
I will say my only advice is if you're going to class, ask the coach what's the stimulus.
Yeah.
And I think, and you guys have all had your L1s, I know that. But one thing they teach in the L1 is to give a goal for the workout, go over movements, substitutions.
Mhm.
And then the last, one of the main topics is what's the stimulus, right?
Right.
Are we moving in a conditioning piece? Are we doing an interval piece, right? Are we doing a big chipper with big sets? Or are we doing some rowing into a heavy squat clean, for example? Or are we doing some rowing into a thruster, something like that? And I use the thruster because I think one of the best examples is, of course, Fran, right? I'm not a big advocate of using in a Metcon, meaning like a chipper or an AMRAP, 10 minutes or something. I'm not a big fan of using more than 65% of your 1 rep max. If the intentions are, hey, I want you to move a 75% barbell 4 times after some work, and then we're going to rest. I think that's a good way to kind of lean into the differences. If we're moving quick, fast, and in a hurry, the lighter the weight, the more efficiency you're probably going to move with that weight. And that means more efficiency means less reason for injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in classes with people who don't do CrossFit to the extent that some of our athletes do, right? And I think when you have to earn the right to lift heavy weight in a Metcon. If I know 100%. For a fact deadlift, Mahmoud brings up one of the biggest ones, the deadlift. And the deadlift can be an annoying work piece just in isolated strength progressions. Low back pain that happens, maybe a lat pull, maybe maybe even a little pec strain, right? But if I know for a fact that you're rounding your back at 225 and the prescribed weight for this Metcon is 225, I'm not going to sit here and tell you need to do 225. I want you to move efficiently. And if I'm missing out on the stimulus because you're trying to lift 225, that's also a misguided information for you as an athlete or a class goer, right?
I've done it before where I have walked up to athletes, stripped their bar from the weight. I was like, keep moving.
Yeah.
And I'm at that point too. I think, this is the ego thing when people come into a CrossFit gym. You guys have all heard the ego aspect to walking into a CrossFit gym, especially Olympic lifts or. Whew, hey, that was a lightning bolt. Did y'all hear that?
Yeah, I heard the thunder.
Dang, that was close. Sorry, guys.
Right from here.
Today, man. If you're in a Metcon that requires 6 to 10 reps of a lift, whether that be deadlift, clean and jerk, snatch, if you're going over 60, maybe I would push it to 70% sometimes. If you're going over that percentage, I think you're at risk for some type of injury or some type of movement compensation that can lead to some pain going back home, like, oh man, my low back pain or something like that. And I think this is also what's important too. And I see this a lot just being in a gym setting, logging your 1 rep maxes. Logging your 1 rep maxes is a huge thing over here. And it's something that I've leaned on a little bit heavier because if you don't know what your 1 rep max is, how do you know anything to reference anything from? Right. Okay. Hey, my 1 rep max is a 225 deadlift. And let's say I didn't know that. Okay. If I go into the Metcon that has 225 and all of a sudden there's 8-10 reps at 225, I'm in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't think lifting above, I would push it to 70%, just seeing from a lot in classes, but I think pushing past 70% of your 1 rep max in any type of lift in a Metcon, that the stimulus is a Metcon stimulus, not interval, not, hey, let's build up to a heavy, I think 75% is the limit.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not a very experienced competitive athlete, 80%, 90%, stuff like that in a Metcon is just not intelligent most of the time. And even for those experienced athletes, that's not something that we necessarily do a lot of like it's not year-round exposure. Like we have to build into that as we get into like the open, semifinals, quarterfinals, things like that, so that you can get accustomed to that sensation and knowing that skill and getting used to lifting heavy snatches, heavy cleans, heavy deads with a super high heart rate. Like obviously for one-on-one athletes and things like that, like we'll mix in some heavy deadlifts in a workout here, but that athlete so much better and you're aware of what they can do, what's safe, what's smart for them, and this, that, and the other, because you're in charge of all of the training protocols, right? I've definitely grown because I was the quintessential, like I need to get a little stronger. There'd be this heavy bar or a moderate bar for me, probably around that 70% range. And I'd be like, I'm just going to do it because like it's a little heavier and it'll help me get stronger. But what I realized much after, I kind of stopped training hard and competing is all I was doing, like, yeah, maybe it helped me get a little stronger. But really what I was doing was I was just blunting the conditioning response because I was going slower. And I'm just a big proponent now, if somebody in class at Greater Heights asks me for advice, or if I can give advice to anybody watching this at their gym, it's like, when you're lifting, you're lifting. Like we're trying to lift heavy ass weights or the weights prescribed for the day.
Separate the two.
When we're conditioning, we're freaking conditioning. And I want you to be conditioning. I don't want you to get slowed down by a barbell unless it's one of those situations where, 9-7-5, ring muscle up, squat clean at 70%. Because then that is that quintessential CrossFit heavy high skill. But the coach is going to express that to you, and that's the expectation of the day. To Connor's point, if we have 20-minute AMRAP, 200-meter run, 20 toe to bar, 20 deadlifts at 225, I want that bar moving the whole time.
Yes.
Right? Like, because you're just kind of screwing yourself on both ends. You're still not strong, so you still need to do more strength work, and you're not getting the conditioning stimulus that you could be getting.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Well, I think this is where gym programming comes the most useful tool for everyday people outside of remote training or at all. It's right. If your gym program if you guys don't have any isolated strength progressions, you need to start asking some questions, right?
Sure.
Because Metcon is not the place to build strength. It's to work on what you just said, conditioning. What's the stimulus for the day? Are we going Fran type heart rate where it's 4 or 5 minutes tops and we're chilling? Or is it a 20-minute AMRAP where I'm deadlifting 225? Right. It's I think the gym programming comes in to the forefront at that point in time. Because if your gym is not doing isolated strength progressions, whether it be front squat, deadlift, hell, even shoulder to overhead, some type of movement, it's hampering you because you're not isolating your strength piece. You're just conditioning, which honestly, the more reps at X amount of weight, the better, right? Eventually you might see some results, and that's okay.
Well, that almost bleeds into like the one kind of in the weeds, potentially controversial thought I have with getting stronger, or the conditioning weight side of it is, I'm a firm believer, because I've seen it so many times. If you're in a phase of training where you're trying to push more conditioning, right? That is your focus. But you're still doing lifting progressions. I am a firm believer that if you're doing moderate to heavy barbells, 60 to 70% in those conditioning pieces, you can pull back the volume and intensity of your strength work, and you will still reap strength gain benefits. Not to the same degree,
Yep.
Nobody clip that shit and get me in an Instagram argument. Not to the same degree, but if you're in a conditioning phase and you're pushing conditioning and you're pulling back a little bit on the weightlifting, even if you're somebody who needs to get stronger, because obviously like that happens, right? You're getting ready for a comp, BCS, whatever, TFX, the open, the stimulus you get when there's a large amount of metabolic tissue damage and metabolites in the cell, and then trying to recruit those high threshold motor units and those fast twitch muscle fibers when you're in that setting. I will die on this hill until there's a study that shows me otherwise. It is like doing maintenance level weightlifting strength work at the 70% range. I will die on that hill because I've seen it so many times with my athletes. I've seen it so many times. And I think that's one of the reasons in the early days, people were like, gee willikers, I'm doing CrossFit and I'm just getting stronger.
I don't think anybody said gee willikers.
Maybe they did, maybe they didn't.
Tristan's. It's one of your
That's
things.
one of mine. That's okay.
Yeah.
But that's like the one kind of in the weeds thing that I do truly believe, because I've seen it a lot with athletes, throughout my time coaching. And I know it's one of those things I'm so confident on. Like, I feel like if every coach in the world sat back and looked back, they'd be like, oh yeah, they did still kind of stay just as strong or get a little stronger in that time, even though we were only doing 6x3 at 70%, like 4x3 squat snatch at 72%. Right. Like, they weren't pushing it, but you were getting that moderate to heavy exposure in a Metcon.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. All right. What do we got? Like, closing thoughts. There's a couple people watching. Obviously, I can't see your names, but if you guys have any questions, we got a couple more minutes here. If anybody has questions, strength-related stuff that we can answer, help y'all out a bit. Mahmoud, any random thoughts cross your mind? Throw in there on the mix.
No. I do like odd object strength training as well. Again, it keeps it.
Took mine.
Keeps it kind of fresh. Keeps it like I believe in the power of the sled. I just believe in it.
Facts.
You just gotta load that thing and move it and like drag it, pull it, push it, all of that.
Fast, slow, medium.
Yeah, long, short. Yeah, there's so many things that you could be. It's so versatile. I know not all gyms have a yoke, but that's another thing that's just like a massive tool that you could use. D-balls, sandbags, farmer's carry, handlebar farmer's carry, single side suitcase carries. I love the reactive suitcase carries with the bands too. Those are just like insane. Dude, it's just like I finished this like I have not hurt in my side like that ever.
They're hard.
So it's just like, again, when you feel like your side plank has just plateaued and you don't like you're gonna hold it for 2 minutes, that's another way to like, hey, let's trigger that, because the body adapts and then you need to try and shift that adaptation.
Right.
I'll leave on this because I gotta jet, guys. But anybody who's listening or does listen to this, going into a CrossFit gym, or if you're a part of a CrossFit gym, make sure that you just learn how to choose a good coach, right? Learn what good coaching looks like. Whether it be feedback, maybe it's a test. Maybe it's like, hey, I know the answer, but I'm just going to ask my coach this. But if they're not giving you a stimulus to accomplish, if they're not asking you or asking you to dial back down, that's all out of love and looking out for the person who's doing the work. Mahmoud goes over and strips weights. Please don't get offended by it.
I go the other way too. I was like, hey, you need to add weight.
Oh, yeah, and that's fair too. But the best thing I can tell people is learn what a good coach looks like, and what they sound like, and what information they're giving you.
And don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, and please don't, because I guarantee you somebody probably has the same question that is scared to ask it.
For sure.
And I've seen people come from quote unquote bad coaching and see what good coaching can do. And it's so much more beneficial than just going in and getting a workout in.
Yeah.
I've had an athlete before that told me that she used to go to different gyms and do the movement incorrectly to see if the coach is paying attention and corrects her.
That's it, honestly, and that's what I was getting at. Test them.
That's gangster.
And seriously, because if you don't want your long-term gym span to be with a bad coach.
Right.
You know, our ultimate goal here in CrossFit, just in general, and this is not remote training, this is not personal training, this is just CrossFit in the general, right? We were founded on building a healthy lifestyle. We weren't built on, you know, gung ho 315 deadlifts for 30 reps for time, right? We weren't built on that. It was more so of fundamentals of life movement. And I think over the course of time, as CrossFit has gotten more and more competitive and more professionalized, for lack of a better term, I think we've kind of lost sight of that. And it's also lost sight in the gym as well, because now you got competitive training programs stepping foot into gym programming, right?
Yeah.
And I think over time we've kind of lost sight of that. You know, just make sure you got a good coach. However you do it, figure it out. Whether it's a bonding thing, and then, you know, you can trust him or her to do things or say things differently, and you can and be a fan of constructive criticism as well, right?
When they criticize you, they care about you.
Yes, and you know, my girlfriend Addie does a good job. When I came here, everybody was like, "Oh man, you're a little more softer than Addie," and I was like, "Dude, really?" You know, but you know, the wall ball to depth, that's a big one. That
God.
I know, but like, look, if you don't have the proper squat mechanics or the squat depth, then what are we trying to accomplish?
Well, and that's one that, like, that stuff. That whole conversation just grinds my gears. Like, dog, if I go give you a coaching cue, or I tell you, "Hey, get lower," like, and then I put a ball under you, or the bad one is the people who, you know, they know what depth is,
right?
Like, I know that you know that I know that you know.
Yeah.
So
like
cut the shit.
Like, they just did squats and they were perfectly fine, but during wall balls, it's just like, oh, okay, now we're just gonna go above parallel.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, what are you doing?
I just saw you go below parallel with way more weight.
It's like that Instagram reel. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, that stuff drives me nuts. All right, well, I'll wrap up. I think Mahmoud definitely took mine with sleds and sandbags and stuff. I would say, one little nugget for strength. I'll keep it simple. Rest longer than you think you need to in between your strength sets. If you really need to get stronger and you're lifting heavy enough weights to actually get stronger, especially in the squat, the deadlift, the front squat, or the clean and jerk, don't do it on the 90 seconds.
Yep.
Go sit down for a minute.
2 minutes, maybe 3.
3, 4. I mean, dog. When I did Texas method way back in the day, when I was doing Misfit, they programmed Texas method. I was doing a set of 5 squats on the 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I was dying every single rep. It was, you know. Yeah. So that would be my little simple, easy nugget. Rest longer. You might feel better.
Yep.
Cool. All right, boys. Well, we'll wrap it up with that. I appreciate everybody watching, tuning in, checking us out. If you are curious to learn more, head to our Instagram, Ascend Athlete on Instagram. Feel free to shoot us all DMs, even though I'm the only one who put my Instagram handle.
All right. I was in a rush.
So good job. Amateur hour over here. With that, we'll talk to y'all later.
I'm the only one with a blue check.